We got two topics today. Concluding the Portal series, and I have some news to report on that. I stated in the last class that I was going to be on a mission to meditate, research, contemplate, and figure out what the messages are within these encoded temples and architecture and structures from the ancients. They're all trying to tell us basically one set of things. So I've done this. I've been meditating and contemplating on it quite a bit. And sure enough, and I didn't think I was going to get anywhere. I honestly thought it was going to take months to get anywhere. And when I started to get the answer, I'm like, that's so obvious. Naturally. It's not like a big giant mystery. It's pretty obvious. But I'm missing one part. So I've got about 80% of it, but the 20% part I'm missing is vital. It is the crux of it. But we do know that all these ancient sites are partly documentation of what happened, so that they left a history to tell us why they disappeared and vanished, why these civilizations went away, the catastrophes that caused their destruction. And again, this goes back to Plato's what's the
Atlantis.
what?
Atlantis.
Atlantis, thank you. I was like Aquarius. No, I knew it was Aqua something, yeah, but it was Atlantis. And it was underwater. So the whole point is that, of course, it's been changed around. He wasn't talking about an entire city that was underwater. He was talking about a utopia that went underwater. All of these civilizations are talking about this. And again, as we review Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse series, that has been vital and abundant in giving and revealing, kind of building cohesion to all these mysteries. So one purpose for all these ancient sites is they're trying to give us a history, to tell us what happened and why and how, so that we could avoid it. And so they're giving us the before that caused them to have to rebuild and reform and re-civilize again from disappearing. And then they've also recorded and documented for us when and how it's going to happen again. Astrological, astronomical events, they're pretty fixed. Halley's Comet comes around every once in a while and does the same thing, because that's trajectory. We orbit around the sun. These things have mathematical precisions. So those two things are paramount to the purpose of the construction, the architecture, the design, the engineering of these sites, from Stonehenge to Göbekli Tepe, all of them. And they're all giving us that central part of the story, that some mysterious teacher showed up with a small band of other people and retaught them how to agriculture, to speak, to write, to have language and science and knowledge and wisdom. To reintroduce these lost parts of their intelligence. But what's missing? So we've figured out in many ways the before, that they're documenting some tragic event, an apocalyptic event that occurred that wiped them out. And they're giving us some mathematical formula to predict when it's going to happen again. They're kind of leaving it behind. They're saying, oh, by the way, we could have known this, and we didn't. We screwed up. And so here's how you can know it. They've recorded it. But then there's the big mystery of what to do about it. Why would they tell us all this and leave out the most significant part? How to avoid it. And it's not just, hey, by the way, don't destroy your environment. That's a big part of it. Look what we did. We got too advanced and then we destroyed ourselves. With technology and pollution, we caused an apocalypse. And you guys are going to do the same thing if you're not careful. So that's a big part of it. But then we get into the esoteric and the spiritual aspect of this. Because again, we have priests, shamans. They're not constructing these things purely out of mathematical, practical science. It is also the science of spirit. And I want to use that word very deliberately. Spirit is not some ethereal, abstract, unknowable thing. It is a part of the reality. It is a part of our dimensional reality. And we can and need to be able to access this. And this is what the ancients were telling us, is that indeed, between psychotropics, ritual, ceremony, and certain, excuse me, formula arranged precisely, they're able to access these portals into other dimensions of knowledge and wisdom. And as I pointed out, it's not that the knowledge and wisdom that exists in another dimension is better than ours. It's more complete. What we have is correct. And again, we are aware of a four-dimensional world, three spatial, one time. But there's 11 dimensions that we can mathematically conclude. It's not that those other dimensions are better or worse. It's that we're incomplete. We're not experiencing them all. Knowledge is the same way. The more knowledge you have can be dangerous unless it's tempered with wisdom. Knowledge is practical. Wisdom is experiential. Throughout my life, I've been in pursuit and acquired and accumulated quite a lot of knowledge. I'm a polymath. I know a bunch of stuff. But it wasn't until I matured and had life experiences that I was able to develop wisdom. They're two different things. Wisdom is perspective, the ability to see how to use knowledge properly, intelligently, responsibly. What these ancients are trying to say is we were like dumb kids, had a lot of power, and we screwed up. We could not prevent the astronomical, astrological events that were going to work against us, and we instead contributed to our destruction. We made things worse, not better. And they're trying to, as any benefactor does, trying to caution us, say, by the way, don't learn from my mistakes. And again, as a parent, that's what we do. We try to teach our kids. They don't want to listen to us, though, do they? We're trying to tell them, don't do this. It's going to be bad for you. And no matter what we say, I mean, when my mom said drugs are bad, I wasn't like, you're wrong. I believed her. I did it anyway. My sister was the opposite, though. No matter what my mom said, fuck you. You don't know shit. I was like, I think she's right, but I don't care. Again, this is the lack of wisdom, the impetuousness of youth. And in this sense, our culture and humanity is in a youthful, adolescent or pre-adolescent stage of its evolution. We are little babies. And we see it every day. I'm confronted daily with technology on my computer that just doesn't work. They design it, they create it, and then they put it out there before they work out all the bugs. They don't know what they're doing. I am held hostage, as all of you are, daily with technical difficulties and challenges. Tech support is synonymous with waste of time, madness. They don't know. And they make you feel like it's your fault. You don't know. And eventually, it took me a while to realize, I'm like, oh my God, it's not that I'm doing it wrong. Their shit does not work. They built it and they made it and they put it out there before they worked out all the bugs. kind of like Windows Vista. What a piece of shit that was. And thankfully, Windows eventually very quickly said, you know what? Everybody hates this, is terrible. So it's documented in these ancient sites mathematically, in formula, in readable text is a documentation, an account of what occurred before that caused apocalypse. And some more than predictions, the mathematical, I'm not sure of the right word, not predictions, but yeah, I guess predictions that when and how it's going to happen again. And we can see this. We can track the stars and the heavens and the planetary bodies and all this kind of stuff mostly. But as we see so many disaster films, by the time we see it, too late. We can't develop the magic bomb that's going to be sent out into space to blow up that meteor that's going to wipe us out. It's too late. Our ancient ancestors were ashamed of what they had done. They're trying to help us. And then there's this middle part. So there was what happened before, and they're trying to tell us what's going to happen again. And we're being able to start to understand that archaeologically. But there's the middle part. There's all this stuff that we don't know, that we can't decipher what they're saying because they're looking through the wrong lenses. They're looking through science lenses rather than spiritual lenses. Spiritual being a loose term here, because we lack a better term. It's, again, just a less material term, less material message. What we have seen as the research of DMT, the active molecules within ayahuasca, readings from within the portal or harmonic synthesis of numerology, tarot, astrology, the hexagrams of the I Ching, and Kabbalah's Tree of Life. First, we use your given name at birth. The consonants receive one number value and the vowels their own. These numbers are added up to reduce it to a double or single digit number. Then we use your birth date numbers, corresponds to your life purpose, the lessons and reasons you have incarnated in this lifetime. The vowels of your name give us your soul number vibration for your eternal essence and higher self. The consonants give us one for your outer personality, the way which your soul expresses itself within the world. By adding these together, we get the path of destiny, the legacy you can leave behind within this life. Each of these have a direct correspondence to a tarot card, astrology, I Ching, and Kabbalah's Tree of Life. All this is laid out upon the blueprint that reveals the different insights through your entire life, from 27-year cycles to 9-year phases, single years, months, and even days and hours. Readings from within the portal are comprehensive insights using the most effective and reliable divinations. That these psychotropics are used for astral travel to break down the barriers, to activate dormant regions of your brain, literally your brain, your chemistry, to be able to perceive these other dimensions that are all around us. And listen, anybody that's taking acid, that's absolutely what happens, is that you don't feel when you're tripping on acid that what you're seeing is fake or some kind of just an illusion. What caused the psychedelic revolution was that people were turning on and sensing that this isn't a manufactured sensation from my brain or from this drug. It's allowing me to perceive things more accurately. Indeed, many people freak out because they can't handle more information. The more stable people, I like to think, such as myself, were like, okay, it wasn't traumatic at all. I'm like, now I see more. I have a wider perspective. these sites are built with a scientific knowledge as well as an esoteric knowledge that is also scientific to be able to provide us with a formula to not only avoid apocalypse, but I think largely what they're saying is you can't avoid it. Meteors are going to come, dryas is going to happen, floods are going to happen. You can't. You can slow it down, and you can certainly not destroy your environment by running fossil fuels and now changing that out and thinking you're doing something great with batteries that's going to completely destroy the world, the planet. We're not going to destroy the atmosphere anymore, we're destroying the planet with the batteries. We're just switching the flavor and the brand of destruction. And so I think a large part of the message of what the ancients are saying to us is that in many ways you can't avoid it. You can prepare. And what you need to prepare is your mind to realize that you're not a physical body, that you're more than this, and that the part that you that lives on is what you need to be aware of and have a relationship with, not in some, again, religious or even spiritual manner, but in a practical way, the way that you know yourself. As you mature and go through life, you become to know yourself, what you like, what you don't like, and why. You develop a philosophy for who and what you are. These ancient sites, portals, provide access to these dimensions, to these other levels of reality. They're not, again, they're right here. They're all around us. We just can't perceive them. These temples and ancient sites give us the access to them. So we can not just witness them, but to exchange with them. A very common theme within psychotropics, particularly in the DMT research, is that the consistent thread and theme within the DMT ayahuasca research is that most people are literally saying, like, I'm not just tripping out. I am in contact with celestial beings or aliens or something that's in another place. They're interacting. They can see me and I can see them. But usually we can't communicate properly because we don't have those skills yet. And this is so consistent in the DMT research. The book, The Spirit Molecule, is profound. It's really great research. It's so consistent that these people can't all be having the same psychedelic trip just coincidentally. It's too consistent. And again, we see in these ancient teachings and these engineered temples and sites that this is what the shamans and priests were doing. They're revealing to us how to contact, connect with the other dimensions of reality where living, intelligent, parallel universe type situation exists that we can access. We don't need to go live on Mars. It ain't going to happen. And by the way, if you did, guess what? Mars is a shithole. You ever been to Bakersfield, California? It's a shithole. Okay? Sorry to people in Bakersfield, but listen, none of them want to live there either. They do because they have to. No one wants to live there. Trust me. When you go through Bakersfield, that's you go through it. I went to see Fleetwood Mac there when they got back together with Christine McVie. That's where there was their first stop. And I knew I was able to go and get good price on tickets because they wanted their first time back with Christine McVie to be like, if we fuck this up, no one will care because it's Bakersfield, for God's sakes. I knew it. And I had a great time. They were phenomenal. I finally got to see the legends, you know? And I was like, Bakersfield, they can go anywhere. They can fill a stadium. Bakersfield was their first stop because they knew, you know what? We need to have one place we can burn if we screw this up. We're going to get something we got to get some traction, you know? We got to synchronize together. Bakersfield was the throwaway one. And I had a good time, but not in Bakersfield. It was terrible. Anyway, the point is that the ancients are not trying to advise to colonize another planet, which we would just do the same thing to. And again, like I told you, you don't live on Mars. It's a shithole. It's a dry, desert, desolate, terrible place. All you would do is survive. They're revealing to us and reminding us that our spirit is not just some intangible fantasy, that our consciousness is part of our being, and we can preserve it and keep it carrying on. And again, so much of my work, what I do, what I write, what I teach, is I'm revealing that. Matter of fact, a new review on my book from Kierkegaard was pointing out that they're quoting one particular part where I'm saying that it's about a development of your soul, that every life that you have is a progressive development if you choose to make it so, that you're going somewhere. It's soul progression, not just a soul's journey, but progression. It's not about building a rocket ship and traveling to another planet. It's about building an internal ship and being able to astral travel, to coexist so that you can maintain your identity instead of it having restart and reboot every lifetime that you get. Look at the obsession of these ancient sites from the pyramids, etc., with death. Always focused on and talking about and emphasizing the point that this is a transition, not an ending. You're going from here and you're going to go through this portal experience, this spatial tunnel kind of thing. You're going to come somewhere else. Get involved with it. Don't just let it take you away. Get involved. Choose your destinations. Do the work. Prepare for your trip. Pack your bags. Do your research. Prepare. The priests and shamans were in charge of this. It's not about everyone in Machu Picchu taking ayahuasca. Most of them would freak out. We're talking about some primitive people. Same today. It's about some of them can do that, and the other ones need to follow the ones that can. The leaders, the ones that can handle it. These structures, Stonehenge, Chaco Canyon in New Mexico, all of them fixated on the solstices and the equinoxes. And what I said in the last class is I was going to find that mystery. Why? What is the point of the equinox and solstice? They're all doing this. They're clearly pointing this out. And they build these temples where what they did literally remove mountains in Serpent Mound, the one in Chaco Canyon. They literally move a mountain so that when the solstice or equinox occurs, the light from the sun or moon has a direct route and path to a specific spot in the temple. The engineering and mathematics that went into that is staggering, literally staggering. Even with supercomputers, they couldn't do it. It's massive. And we don't know that they didn't have supercomputers. We don't see any evidence of silicon chips, but they clearly had something. There's no evidence of those devices anymore. Doesn't mean they didn't have them. Doesn't mean they were primitive and ancient. It means that when they rebuilt, it came with stone and all that kind of stuff because those things last. Steel girders and aluminum doesn't. So as I began to meditate and contemplate on the purpose and significance of the solstices and the equinoxes, knowing that the clue, the answer is within those, because that's where all the focus is in these sites. And I'm meditating and I'm contemplating and I'm doing some research and I'm just associating with it. Looking at some pictures, Googling and blah, blah, blah. Figuring it'll stimulate my wide perspective and all these kind of things, and the answers will come. That's what I've always done, and it always works. And sure enough, again, it came in, I'm like, well, that's just how did I miss that? Like, that's so simple and obvious. It's not complicated. The thing is, we always try to make things too complicated. But I look for some big, tricky answer. And usually it is Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually the best and most correct one. And look, equinox and solstices are polar, what am I thinking? They're very different. They're polarized. They're very different. They're opposite. Solstices are the shortest and longest day of the year. And equinoxes are a perfect balance. And they're on opposite sides of each other. Equinoxes are here in the astral, in the astral cloud, and solstices are here. They're completely opposite from you. They're on four different polar axes. So what is the advantage? What do they give to us? And I said it accidentally, coincidentally, right on Halloween, as I talked about that Halloween and the fall equinox, which is what it really originates from, is when the veils between the spirit world and the material world are the thinnest. That's why Halloween emerged, because it's a fall equinox and it's a time to be able to access these other dimensions more easily. And that's what it's about. The equinoxes and the solstices simply are when you have the prime time to be able to access astrally these other realms. The veils are the thinnest, the boundaries are the thinnest. Encoded within the pyramids, the hieroglyphs, throughout the ancient civilizations, encoded on the walls of the Mayan calendars and Mayan documentation, encoded within them is not just what happened and what will happen, but how to use the solstices to connect and teleport and astrally travel within these other dimensions. Not just to view them, but to go. There is a lot of discussion about where these ancient civilizations went. So many of them seem to have vanished overnight, literally overnight. As I grew up, I was given this insight that, for example, Machu Picchu, that literally these civilizations and communities vanished overnight. That's not exactly true. As I started to learn and become older and do the proper research, archaeology is showing you that no, they didn't just like literally one day we're here and one day we're gone. But virtually it was. It was a massive migration of people over a very short amount of time. And it wasn't, again, possible for that many people to migrate from one place to another so safely and easy and leave almost no trace. In many ways, it was kind of like there was still like, stuff on the stove when they left and it was just gone. So in the big picture, it was indeed virtually overnight that they vanished. And mystics and esoterics have always, again, I grew up with these theories, these understandings, these insights, these suspicions that what happened was they had access to a portal. They vanished through a portal. Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, all these places, that's what they are. That these are ways for people, for civilization to simply get in that flow, in that cosmic flux and just flow with that and go and leave. It feels right. What's encoded within the pyramids, step pyramids and the Egyptian pyramids, what's encoded within the temples and the cities of Machu Picchu, Gopeki, all of them, is the methods on how to do this. And again, I don't consider that everybody in the village was taking ayahuasca. That would be chaos. Most people cannot handle it. the shamans, the priests, the people in charge, the leaders that were advanced, more advanced, that were trained by the ancients that appeared from nowhere and personally trained them. They're the ones that did that and then led the people through these rituals and ceremonies to be able to travel through the portals and leave.
Where did they go?
They went, right? That's what went. Did they go to Mars? Go some death? Did they go to Bakersfield? Where they go, it's mystery and it's not mystery. Again, there are many dimensions. Again, the movie Interstellar does a fantastic job of showing that. Again, what we have in the singularity event is a breakthrough, a ending of one universe and a beginning of a whole another one. And that all time and all things, again, Akashic records exist simultaneously. Access any of them. And so it's not like your physical body necessarily that I know of teleports into some other dimension. It's a bit of both. It's an astral body. And where you go is one of the other, whatever dimensions you connect to. Take your pick. There's many of them. Again, the DMT research, the consistent theme between different experimenters and participants in the research is that most of them are having a very similar experience with specific certain beings. And again, saying that we have the gray aliens and the green aliens, right? Extraterrestrial phenomena is again a very consistent theme. We will see what they experience with abductees, etc. So it isn't necessarily that we have access to an infinite amount of them, but there are several. And in many ways, take your pick. Maybe the ancients connected with a specific one or just a couple different ones. But again, the consistent theme in the ayahuasca and DMT research is that these other beings that people encounter, again, they don't feel like they're having a spiritual experience at all. The DMT experimenters that are being researched and doing this in a lab, they're saying that no, they're just beings like us. They're more advanced, and they're kind of like open arms, kind of like saying, yeah, come on, like you can come here. It's not heaven. It is a material plane of existence. It's a new civilization. Yes, in many ways more advanced and better. And so it's very possible that you can leave your body, I'm using my little air quotes here, you can leave your body and have your consciousness travel through these portals using the solstices and equinoxes to flow with the cosmic stream, the underground stream, as I like to refer to in some things, to leave your body behind and allow your consciousness to travel through these portals to take up new residence. Now, what kind of physical form do you take there? That I don't know. I'm still thinking about it I'm still trying to do some research here. I mean, you got to have a physical form. You've got to be able to inhabit something. And again, in every lifetime, when we die and we get reborn, reincarnate, it's not always as people. We can become dogs, cats, trees, anything living is a soul. Your consciousness is separate from your soul, but it carries on as well. So I don't know specifically how you travel from one, you leave this physical dimension with your consciousness, and then what do you go into? And maybe you just land in something. I think that's something I want to spend more time to think about. Indeed, I don't want to just actually teleport into something and then wake up in like some kind of body existence where I'm like, well, I didn't want this. I want to be in Bakersfield, for God's sakes. I think that we have to kind of assume that ancients, and not just ancients, that's a very generic term, that living, thinking, breathing, conscious beings, our ancestors, thought the same thing. Where am I going? And what am I going to get when I get there? I want to know before I go on booking.com what I'm going to get. I want to see pictures. I want to know. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. The ancients didn't just encode things in hieroglyphs and imagery and pictures and languages to make it hard for us to understand. They chose languages and symbols and pictures that they knew the language would be completely different by the time anybody needed it or came across it. They already knew this. So they tried to create languages that would stand the test of time. Again, like Morse code. Morse code is universal. You can use that all around the world. And if you use it correct, it works for everybody. It's dots and dashes, and that's it. Mathematics is the same way. Mathematics is a universal language. Symbols may different, maybe look different from person to person, nation to nation, but the values stay the same. Encoded within these temples and documents are the documentation of what it is, how to do it, and how to do it properly. And that is the burning question, I guess, is if you agree with this and you want to do it, what am I going to get? I don't want to just show up and be like, oh wow, this is worse. I have not been able to develop that so quickly in just a week, but I'll think about it because I'm curious too. How many people, or should I even just say how often, have you thought to yourself in this lifetime, I just want to get out of here? If there was a teleportation device, I would just get the F out of here. I'm done with this place, especially during election season. Most of us are like, I just want to get, this is insanity. This is complete insanity. And I'm not saying like, it's not just that I disagree or whatever. It's insanity. It is chaos. I just want to leave. I just want to teleport the fuck out of here. And this again is like an innate drive, a mechanism that we have that we just want to get out of here and deal with this. Again, I'm not suggesting that another world is necessarily better or worse. It's different. It's not perfect. But again, certainly if you take somebody from 1,000 years ago from the Dark Ages and ask them if they want to live in the 20th century, they'd probably like computers and fast food and refrigerators and ice in the freezer. Hell yeah. Look where I live. Oh, I live is scary. It's dark as shit. I'm terrified all the time. People kill me. People rape us. It's terrible here. The food isn't good. We don't have any ice. And of course, many of us are thinking like, I'd go back in time where things were simpler. Yeah, you say that now until you do it for a week. Then you'd be like, where's my Starbucks? You know? Where's my latte? So this is still part of the material phenomena. There are many dimensions of material phenomena, many worlds that are better than ours, more advanced, have progressed. They were where we were before, and they will be again. It is a cyclical series of events. It always comes full circle. Manifestation, pralaya. Manifestation is the condition we're in right now. The world is a living, breathing, functioning thing, physical and operating. And then pralaya. Pralaya is when it goes into its dormant state. And then there's Mahapralaya, where the entire universe goes into a dormant state, but it still exists in a singularity. And then it becomes activated again and lives again. So regardless of what dimension or world you go to, by using these temples and the solstices and the equinoxes. It's still a material realm. It's going to have its flaws. But hey, for the first couple of weeks, you'd be like, this is way better. This place kicks ass. Better than where I was with politics and all that, shopping malls and blah, blah. But after, maybe, I don't know, a decade or so, or whatever the time frame is there, you'd be kind of like, it's not perfect. It's got problems too. I mean, some real assholes here. Which brings us back to we're still in the same conundrum. We're still trapped in the material realm. And while these ancients were had access to more progressive knowledge and science and engineering, and were far more synthesized and synchronized between the spirit and the material, they still were material beings focused on material survival and existence, not purely liberating from that altogether like a Buddha or a sage or saint. I don't want, yes, I would teleport to another land if it was better than here. I would do that in an instant, of course, most of us would. But again, I already anticipate that it's not going to be too long, no matter what it is in the material realm, I'm going to become complacent. That is the nature of the material realm. It is complacent. No matter how good something is, anything, eventually you're like, yeah, I don't want to do it again. I mean, it's good, but even sex and love, which are the pinnacles of pleasure and joy and happiness in the human realm for the most part, we like to pace it. If you do it every day, all the time, it ain't special anymore. We want to keep things dynamic, not static. And so, in many ways, our sages, saints, gurus, and Buddhas are saying to these ancients, hey, you don't get it. You can astral travel all you want. You're still going to end up being somewhat unhappy. You're still going to have desires, and desires lead to unhappiness. That's it. You can't stop that. You get to liberate your soul, liberate your consciousness from the material realm, not just from the world you're in. I don't think that what is within these ancient temples and ancient knowledge, that's contained there. They're teaching us how to survive in a material realm, how to transcend, how to leave, how to astral travel, how to depart, reestablish, etc. To retain our consciousness. But it's the deeper layers that are teaching us how to exit from the material realm altogether. Even if you look at the ancient Egyptian and the others, their fixation on the transition of life after death. That was the central focus of the Egyptian culture. How you're living is only a minor part of who and what you are. It's what you're doing when you go. How to transition from the death event into the next realm. They invested all their thought and resources into that. But again, it wasn't talking about spiritual divination, becoming divine. It was talking about continuing on as you are in another realm, another dimension, to continue on, to live on. If it was a spiritual liberation, why would they want to put all the gold and luxuries in the Pharaoh's pyramids if they were being liberated spiritually? They wouldn't care about any of that. It's because they're theoretically taking this with them. This all gets to go with you. You get to take it with you. So it's not teaching. These ancients are not teaching us about spiritual liberation. They're teaching about material transition.
In terms of taking these physical things, these luxuries, is it referring to the actual physical, like you get to take these with you, or is it more referring to these investments represent your wealth and that you will attain in next life?
No, the reason literally that all the gold and all this stuff was put in the pharaoh's temples, I mean the pharaoh's burial chambers, was literally because they do get to take it with them. It was so that they would have these things that belonged to them in their next in where they were going. So it was literally about that.
Where did that, but I think everyone can agree that you can't take anything on with you. So what gave them this confidence in that?
This could be again the error in material thinking, arrogance. It's an arrogance, a material arrogance that clearly, look, as much as I'm able to share and accept that they are wise and have access to knowledge that we don't, they're still material beings. They're still stupid humans. And so indeed, they're still fixated on the material stuff, not the spiritual. And again, we see this in the way that they treated the pharaohs. Yeah, why indeed? Why were they loading the place up with jewels and gold if you can't take it with you? Clearly, they thought you could. Clearly. So why they have all this wisdom? Well, look at us. We have all this wisdom, and yet we can't get computers to work properly. Windows Vista still came out. Look at what's going on out there. It's a fucking nightmare. I also am somewhat nostalgic of a pre-computer time. I was watching the Bill Gates in the Future documentary last night, talking about the conspiracy type perspective that the internet generates and creates and how this thing happens. It was very insightful how we're talking about how it began and how it produced, how it develops, and it gets out of control, and how crazy it is. Flat earth concepts, that people are literally believing, and you can't stop it. You can't. And again, so much of it comes down to the simple fact that people are producing things and using things far before they're ready to. The Terminator movies are a prime example. Eventually, AI doubles back on itself, and their prime directive is, okay, in order to protect humanity, I have to destroy humanity. Listen, where the Matrix is concerned, I'm taking the blue pill. Fuck the red pill. I'd rather be in the illusion. If I got to be here, you give me the blue pill until I'm dead. I mean, when you think about it, the red pill, what do? They live like shit. They fight all the time. They try to and all you get is another sequel. They never do it. All you get is one more sequel. It goes on and on and on and on. That's the metaphor. I'm not taking that damn red pill. Screw that. The blue pill is the way to go.
Haven't you though?
What?
Haven't you taken the red pill?
Yeah, but again, that's because Neo and what's the other guy's name?
Which one? Morpheus?
Yeah, Morpheus. That's because Morpheus talked me into it. Con man. Now I'm like, no, I don't want these. Too late. You took it. Because he makes it seem like, oh, you got to know the truth. I'm like, no. And again, but there are people within the Matrix that do get the option. They don't take it. Yeah, I'm one of those dumb guys like, yeah, give me 2 red pills. Yeah, I want the whole truth. What a dumbass.
No,
I want to go back in time.
ignorance is bliss.
I want to go back in time and take the blue pill. So every one of these civilizations on every planet throughout the multiverse, they've been there, done that. These advanced places that we can possibly access and even exist within by teleporting. with or without psychotropics, by using solstices and equinoxes to use these portals, these chambers, these wormholes to exist in another dimension. And indeed, they probably will be much better for a long time. But one of these things, these ancients and these other parallel universe beings, living things, are telling us is we've been where you are. And we thought we could stop it too. We did it. We did the same thing. We destroyed ourselves. Then we rebuilt. And we had somebody like us come and show us how to do it. Somebody travels around the universe and keeps, and it goes on and on and on. It doesn't mean it's a permanent answer. It's just an answer. So even though I feel like I'm gaining tremendous access to the ancient wisdoms and what they're trying to convey to us, and even the formula, which I think I can figure out eventually. As bad as I'm at math, I'll be able to figure it out. And I'm okay with ayahuasca and psychotropics. I do fine on those. I'm totally fine with them. Even though I can do those things, I'm already kind of like, aren't I just taking another blue pill? Aren't I just teleporting from one matrix to another one? Do I want to be on the blue pill? Do I want to be in the red pill? I want out. The concept within the matrix, ultimately, the consistent theme there is you want out. You don't want to be in the illusion anymore. And that is the illusion of the material Mayic phenomena. That all the spiritual and scriptural things teach us that it is an illusion. And I pointed out that the Vedas do not teach you that the material phenomenon is actually an illusion. It doesn't exist. It does exist. It is real. Your perceptions of it don't exist. Your perceptions of it are an illusion. You need to adjust, modify, update your programming to perceive it properly. And that is that all material realms suck. Listen, one of the best places I've traveled to in my worldly travels, I've been all around the world. I got to tell you, Switzerland was pretty hard to resist. I was like, oh my God, this is like very much utopian. This is really peaceful, really beautiful. People are really smart. Everyone here was in pretty good shape. They were cared about their appearance, and it wasn't a bunch of egos. It just was really kind of cool, right? Very advanced. And where was I going with that? I was
They've got their problems too.
They got their problems. And again, there's a part of me that wants to go live there. First of all, it's hard to do. You can't just like you literally got. Oh yeah, it's not easy to become a Swiss citizen. You know, you can't just go through the motions. You've got to show that you have something to contribute and that you already have.
And even then, it's very hard. My brother and sister-in-law just
That's right.
bailed after a decade of trying.
And so again,
In
the point is that even if I could, the reality is I'm still going to be stuck here. It's not going to be a true way out. Again, the Buddhist saints and sages and gurus, they're the ones that are telling us, the Christs are telling us, go wherever you want. It's all the same. It's going to look and smell and seem different, but it's not any different. It's the same. People are the same all over. You need to get out. If you want, it needs to be spiritual liberation, not material. Now, this is why I've chosen the bhakti path of yoga that I'm on rather than the Ashtanga yoga path. Because the Ashtanga yoga and Buddhist path allow you to liberate, but as I pointed out, your consciousness at death is destroyed. Your soul was eternal and cannot be destroyed. Like light, like energy, can never be created nor destroyed. It exists permanently, forever, in one state or another. So your soul will carry on, but your consciousness is terminated. That's a better alternative to an eternity of material suffering, and living in a material dense world, but it's not as good as divination. The bhakti path of yoga, the rasic path of yoga teaches you how to not just become liberated, but how to have your soul, have your mind divinized so it becomes divine, so that you can continue to perceive and think and feel, but in divine consciousness rather than material consciousness. This is true liberation. Again, I'm not suggesting to you, what I'm suggesting with the ancients and what they're teaching is that they don't know this any more than anybody else does in the modern age. There's always a few that know this. And these beings, people, whatever they were, aliens, who knows, that traveled to different regions of the world, from South America through the West, through the East, that restarted civilization by teaching them agriculture and language and engineering. These are very wise people, but they're still people. They're not divine beings. They're not enlightened, realized masters. They are advanced material beings. People can jump up and down all they want about aliens coming and saving us from ourselves. They're still material beings. They only can do so much. Now, I had two topics for today, but again, I'm kind of determined to make these a little bit shorter instead of going on for a long time. Well, I'm going to introduce the topic. So we're going to go about 10, 15 more minutes. So I'm only going to be able to introduce the next topic, which was the divine will versus free will. We're going to do a series of this. I think this is a prime time of the year to do it as we reach into the holidays, to be able to connect to things that are beyond ourselves and see things in a much broader perspective with love and caring and feeling and all these kind of things that are wonderful concepts. It's very brief, but for a brief time, most people on this planet do at least prioritize these concepts, even if they don't live them and embody them. They do at least temporarily believe in them and think about them a little bit more. So collective consciousness have some benefits there. It is worth a series of talks as well, because free will and versus destiny and God's will can be a paradoxical concepts. They oppose each other. How can we have free will and destiny? How can they coexist? And yet they do. And as I mentioned in the email announcement to introduce this topic, that as with most things, while they contradict each other and should not work, kind of like light being particle and wave, it shouldn't exist like that, but it does. The fact is, it is not mathematically possible for a thing to exist in both states, in both forms. Because light isn't just a particle and a wave or a wave. It is a particle and a wave simultaneously. And yet it can only be one or the other. It's a paradox. In a similar way, free will and destiny coexist, and yet they are diametrically opposed. They are complete conflict with each other, total contradiction, and yet they exist. What we will demonstrate in these topics of free will and destiny and God's will is how to tap into this insight and be able to adapt your will to a destined will. And again, as we talk about parallel dimensions and universes and portals through them, it works on a very similar principle. Other dimensions of reality, astral dimensions, celestial dimensions, other planets, whatever, they can be accessed through astral portals, wormholes, etc. with or without psychotropics and or astral travel through celestial physical realms. The will works the same way. When we learn the right formula, we begin to synthesize them together. I'm a prideful human being. I want to be who I am, what I am. I have some pride. I don't want to, my discomfort when I first started to learn about enlightenment and realization was that I was learning that your soul continues on because it's already perfect and divine, but your identity, who you are as a person, your ego and self dissolves. It gets annihilated. And I'm like, but then I'm not me anymore. And me is all I know. So I guess when I get to a realized enlightened state, I won't care because I'll be in like a utopian state of consciousness, a divine state. But initially, again, as a stupid human, I'm like, but I don't want to remove who and what I am. I don't want to be like everybody else. And this kind of concerned me. And again, my research, my life has been showing me that it's a unique phenomenon within the divine existence that you get both. You become perfectly divine, and in that way, you're just like everybody and anybody else. And yet, you have a very distinct personality that is you. And in this sense, again, with parallel universes and parallel worlds and dimensions, free will and divine will works in a similar principle. My ambition with my existence is to align my will with divine will. I cannot become divine will. I'm not worthy of that, and I'm not joined with it. I'm not divine. My soul is divine, as always has been, always will be. But my consciousness is not. My consciousness is what binds me here. My formula to travel, again, as we use these portal concepts, to travel from the material consciousness from my free will, individual will, my ego will, to a divine will, is to again learn to adapt and become one with it, to dissolve the boundary, the barrier between my will and divine will. They both exist on their own, but the divine will is more powerful and much stronger. And so I don't have to annihilate mine. I need to merge mine, to transcend, penetrate the boundaries between my will and the divine will, and become synthesized within the divine will. So again, as I try to live my life in the material world, I'm trying to align my will with the divine will. Rather than do what I want, ego, air quotes there with the word I want to align what I want with what God wants. And that's often opposed. What God wants for me is divine realization, to be in perfect peace and harmony and love and divine bliss. That's what God wants. And I do too, but I'm kind of like, yeah, so I want like extra cheese and I want some soda on the side. My interpretation of what bliss would be is messed up because I don't know divine bliss. I know of it conceptually, but I don't know it experientially. And I'm very familiar with material happiness and pleasure. I've tasted those. I've experienced those. So that's my point of reference. So daily, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make decisions in my life and my thinking and feeling to lean into, go towards the spiritual decisions and aspects and bliss and happiness rather than the material ones. I don't trust the material ones. Those are all misleading. They just end up in dead ends again and again and again, over and over and over. The only result from desiring is disappointment or greed. Only two you can get. So when I learn and develop my intuition, my consciousness, so I can recognize the difference between my will and divine will. What do I want as a stupid human versus what is good for me as a divine soul? And again, as a parent, I try to teach my son when he was young how to make the right decisions. I know this is what you want, but here's what the results are going to be. I didn't tell him just don't do that. Sometimes I did. I had to as a parent. Put that down, step away from that. Don't light that on fire. Don't do that. I taught him what the consequences of thought and action would be so he could decide for himself. So he could use his will and his mind to construct a will that would align with something that would attain him a measure of peace and confidence and self-respect. By guiding him. This is what our saints and sages and Buddhas and gurus have done for us. They give us the formula to be able to align, to be able to use the equinoxes and solstices within our spirit to be able to align and take advantage of the symmetry. And again, choose between what I want and what is best for me. What I want is rarely what's best for me. But over time, as I've matured, now what I want typically is what's also best for me. Not like when I was younger. When I was younger, what I wanted was just what I wanted. I barely even thought about whether it was good for me or not. That didn't even occur to me. I am not obsessed with just doing things that are good for me, but certainly I have this delicious trail mix that I like to snack on every night before bed. All right. And it's got like some sweet chocolatey stuff and some raisins, some nuts. It's like really good stuff, right? I enjoy it a lot. I look forward to it. And occasionally I get a little craving for it much earlier. I'm like, don't do that. Because if you have it now, you'll probably have it again later. And you're gonna get eventually that's a slippery slope, man. Cherish it and honor it and keep it like a sacred thing that you do at the end of the day. You'll enjoy it more and you'll also enjoy the self-respect to be able to contain your desires and restrain from them and make them measured. I'm like, yeah, but so what? So again, it's not that I'm depriving myself of happiness and pleasure and being all controlled and disciplined. By trying to live within divine will, by doing the so-called right thing, I am applying my will to align it with the right thing. I'm still having my little treat, but I'm following what I feel is the advice, recommendation of the divine will. Yes, enjoy these things, but honor them properly, responsibly, so that you can continue to progress as a soul and as with a spiritual mind and consciousness, rather than just stay stagnant and stay in one place. So my lifestyle and my daily decisions are an attempt to align my decisions and lifestyle with a divine will. And again, that doesn't mean go live in a cave and wear orange and renounce the world like a Buddha or like a sadhu. It doesn't seem to be. That's not my place in this life right now. It is to do the best with what I've got and make the right decisions and not be afraid or weak in my decisions to do the right thing instead of the wrong thing, in spite of my desire to do one thing or the other. So we're going to talk about the will concept. And we're going to talk about destinies, hard destinies and soft destinies, things that are etched and you cannot change are the hard destinies. Birth, death, preset, pre-scheduled, prearranged, predetermined. But the details in between. And as I mentioned in my story there, that indeed, wouldn't matter if I stayed in bed that day. I would have been struck by lightning. My destiny, my hard destiny was I was going to die that day. That was a fact. My life was going to change dramatically. That was unavoidable. But what I did with it was up to me. With free will, I chose to learn how to walk and talk and recover. And I really didn't really want to. The easy way was like, you know what? I got a free pass. I can become a vegetable and just lay here and not do it. No one's gonna wag a finger and say that how weak I am. No one's gonna nothing. The fact that I'm still breathing and alive, they'll build little shrines, man. I'm a hero. I chose with my free will. It wasn't a hard destiny. I can tell you for a fact, it was not a hard destiny that I was going to recover. I had to do the work with my free will to align it with what I thought was the divine will. If I did the work, as I mentioned, I did the work. It wasn't a miracle that I just magically healed and recovered and became a medical miracle. I did the work, and it was a bitch. God graced me with results. That's a good example, I think, of aligning my will with the divine will. I did what I thought what the divine will wanted me to do, which was to try to recover. Honestly, again, as a stupid human or as a somewhat illuminated human, I'm kind of like, what a gypped out was. Death was totally fine. Death was really nice. No bills to pay, no cleaning the kitchen, none of that shit. Death is cool. Like it's really an easy thing to do. Sit there and exist in consciousness, raw, pure. How simple is that? That was beautiful. Living. I don't do this. It wasn't my time, as they say. I was advised to do something else. I wasn't commanded. There wasn't an etched in stone like Moses with the tablet saying, no, you got to go back and live and recover and all. It was an option. It was suggested to me in a way that I knew that's what they wanted. They weren't telling me or commanding me. They're softer and gentler than that. They, Akashic agents, angels, God's will. It was suggested in a way that I wasn't going to disappoint them. I don't care what they want. I'm going to do it. Why? I don't know. It's hard to explain. Kind of like how you love your kids and stuff. Like you just do. You can't not do it. Try not to do it. You just can't do it. And so it was just with God's will, with divine will, it was just, I gotta, I want to. I don't care what it is. It's not because I want them to love me because I already know they do. It's because, again, I can't explain it. It's just because I love them. And when you love something, you serve it. You do what it wants. So we can have a lot of fun with the free will versus divine will concept and have and explore answers as to how to align. And again, not just experience a spiritual joy or bliss or connection, but to also synthesize this within our material existence, to take the sting out of material existence. As I mentioned privately to some people, my life has fear and anxiety and stress and uncertainty and all the kinds of things everybody's worried about. Everything. And in many ways, way more. And yet, I do have a dualistic experience that there's a part of me that is ever calm and ever at peace and ever satisfied. I just know that that shit doesn't matter. As a stupid human, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta take care of shit. And as a soul and as a spirit that's aware of that, it's aware of my spirit and soul, I'm kind of like, none of that shit even matters. All that matters is my relationship with the divine. That's all that matters. So my point is that as I try to use my story within my book, within the portal, is that I don't want people to just think that they need to become sadhus and go live a spirit. If you can, that's great. But that you can use a material life, you got to pay attention to it, you got to respect it, you've got to honor it. And we don't have to neglect our material life or existence to become spiritual. We need to do it properly, responsibly, with love, and follow the divine will. So there we go, 8:45. Let's just wrap it up. I tried to keep it down a little less than that, but we're in there. So we'll continue with divine will, and we're talking about the blessings of unhappiness as we approach the holiday season, the benefits of being unhappy, the beauty of it. I'm not unhappy about being unhappy. I am happy about my unhappiness. I wouldn't trade it for anything. No red pill, no blue pill. It just is what it is, and I appreciate it. It's a motivator. So we'll continue on all those things to be continued soon. Any questions? Any comments?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, as always. All right, I'll see you soon.